All right, I'm gonna give you some of the most common objections to a lifestyle of biblical wellness. Coming up next. Over the course of the last several months, I think it's funny how some of the objections to caring about your health and wellness are so similar. All of them are the same. In fact, comments on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, comments on Facebook and Instagram, many of the comments are the same, and a lot of these objections are the same. So I thought, why don't I read a few of these and answer them for you? So let me give you number one. Number one is this. If I choose physical health, that means I'm choosing physical health over God, right? I'm placing my physical health over God. I no longer can be spiritually in pursuit of Jesus. And now instead of that, I am pursuing this sort of vain life of bodybuilding and Instagram modeling. Well, first of all, that's a false dichotomy. We don't have to actually choose between the two. We can just in good faith pursue a life of good health and God-honoring health in which we steward our bodies well. 1 Corinthians 6, Paul says your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. That doesn't mean that the body is a temple because it's a temple. It means it's a temple because the Holy Spirit dwells within it. So the reason we steward our bodies is not because we love ourselves and we're vain and we're Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1970s and 80s. It's actually because the Holy Spirit dwells within us. So actually, stewarding body is an act of worship towards God. All right, here's objection number two, and this one's funny. So it says this: if I focus on my body, I'll become all big and ripped. And I don't want to be big and ripped. I just want to be healthy. This is a false dichotomy as well. First of all, if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger or The Rock, or if you look at some of the Instagram models or the people that you admire on television, and you think, I'm gonna be so big and ripped like that person if I start lifting weights. No, you won't. You're not gonna be big. You're not. You know how much effort it takes to look like that? One person asked Arnold Schwarzenegger one time, he was in the gym, they're like, how do I lift weights without looking so big? Because I don't want to be as big as you are. And Arnold Schwarzenegger said to him, don't worry, you never will. You're never going to be as big. You're never going to look that huge. It takes an insane amount of effort, an insane amount of energy. Really, our body pursuit, or our pursuit of health rather, for our bodies is not about getting ripped and huge. That might be a byproduct of it, but it's all about honoring God with our health, pursuing longevity and stewarding our body. So we've got to switch up the framework and we've got to start creating these straw mans so we don't actually have to care about our health. All right, here is my least favorite. And out of all of the objections, the one that annoys me the most, and it's this: all things in moderation. And this is probably the most common Facebook and YouTube comment I think I get on the Ex Nihilo channel. And they say, well, all things in moderation. And friends will say, all things in moderation as they eat their tacos and eat their cake. And I say, okay, that's not in the Bible. That's not a Bible verse. It's one of those kind of phantom Bible verses that we've added in. It's actually just common knowledge. And like the saying goes, a lot of common knowledge is simply a reflection of social bias. And that's what that is. We want to believe that we can eat all things in moderation. We want to believe that we can have cake and pizza and macaroni and cheese, but also salad and fruit and vegetables. And we can have them kind of in this sort of order where we can have a little bit of each and everything is okay with that. But that's not in the book of Corinthians or Romans or Exodus or anything like that. That is something that we've made up in recent decades, in the 80s and 90s, that we can justify why we're not caring for ourselves the way we should. All right, I got a comment on a video about exercise and diet, and this is a true story. Someone said, Jesus never told us to exercise. Jesus never told us to exercise. Well, that's true, he didn't. And Jesus also never told us to wear our seatbelts. But you buckle up when you get in the car, at least 95% of you do, right? Because we know it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the reason why Jesus doesn't address these sort of issues, the reason why he just exercises is because Jesus wasn't raised in 2020 American Western culture. He didn't have the problems we do. And what are some of the problems we face that Jesus didn't face? Well, he didn't have to face sedentary lifestyles. He didn't face chronic disease. He didn't face a society that wakes up, looks at its phone, gets in a car, commutes for 45 minutes or an hour, then sits down at work for another 8 to 9 hours, and then gets back in the car to sit again for another 45 minutes or an hour, and then to rest from the hard day's work, sit in front of the television or the iPad for an additional 2 to 3 hours with Netflix or Apple movies or whatever it is, right? That creates a breeding ground for Western modern diseases, chronic diseases, 1 in 2 Americans have a chronic disease that are caused by diet or exercise related activities. And so we have to keep in mind that Jesus didn't have to address that. Furthermore, Jesus also walked many miles. Some estimate roughly 21,000 miles in his life. That is a lot of miles. They did not have cars, and so they traveled by foot. Most people in the first century, their lifestyles were very on the move. They moved all of the time. They were walking, they were traveling. We very rarely travel. In fact, many of us have these trackers on our wrists. And I've got a Samsung Gear watch here, S Gear watch, or Gear S3, and it'll tell me how many steps we walked. And many of us struggle to get to the basic 10,000 steps. We're like, I gotta get that 10,000 steps, and I'm only at 4,000, and it's 5:30 in the afternoon. So you have to understand that the problems we face today, the issues we face today, aren't the same as the problems Jesus faced, and that's why he didn't directly say we need to exercise. Okay, the last objection to like a biblical wellness lifestyle is this. Look how vain some of the leaders in evangelicalism are. Look how vain how much they care about their shoes and their jeans and their watches and their V-necks and the hipsters and their skinny jeans. And I don't want to pursue that. I want to pursue a God-honoring life where I am self-forgetful, okay? Now, let me just say, that is actually a really good thing. You should want to pursue self-forgetfulness. You want to be so infatuated and focused on Christ that we do forget about what we look like, to be sure. But just because some people are swimming in the vanity lane doesn't mean we should swim in the opposite lane, which can be self-neglect, okay? We shouldn't avoid vanity and accidentally fall off the other side of the ship. That is poor stewardship. So I know you might be fearful of the deep V-necks that some of the pastors wear. I am also very fearful of them, but for other reasons, because I think it looks crazy. I understand what you're talking about, but nonetheless, the opposite of vanity is poor stewardship. And we don't want to be poor stewards, and we don't want to be vain. We want to pursue Christ with God-honoring biblical wellness, which means we honor our bodies because God created our bodies. We're made in the image and likeness of God. And we are good stewards of bodies because he provided them to us, because his Holy Spirit dwells within us. And we want to honor that God is present with us. And so that's why we care for our bodies. Hey, I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, would you do me a favor? Would you give a thumbs up to this video? Would you like this video? Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I want to get more principles on biblically based wellness out to the masses. And you can help me do that by subscribing. See you next time.